Welcome back, everybody. I'm Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Jim Teske, and for this Teske's Tidbits, we're going to talk about something that's kind of a rite of spring here in central New York. As the weather begins to warm, people start to think about maple syrup because it's just about that time for the sap to be running, and we brought in some folks that know a lot about this, and they're the co-owners of the Swiss Mountain Farms. We've got Joanna Baker along with Mark Russell. As I said, they're co-owners. Thanks, guys, for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Well, first off, let's start at kind of the beginning. Joanna, can you explain a little bit how Swiss Mountain Farms got started?
Sure. So we like to think of ourselves as very avid outdoors people. We like to stay busy. So we were initially started, we wanted something new to do with the kids. We wanted to teach them something new as well as ourselves. So we thought, what better thing than to learn about how to make maple syrup, as we have about 4,500 maple trees on our property. So that's how it got started. It was more or less just a hobby that we wanted to do with the kids, and has turned into much more than that.
So when was that kind of inflection point when you decided, well, this is a bit more than a hobby, and you took the big jump?
So about in 2023, we started out, we had 67 taps. We were collecting them by hand on buckets. And we loved it. With the kids had a blast going out, seeing if the sap was running that day, collecting it to see how much we got. So we boiled that year in 2023 in our driveway on a homemade evaporator that Mark had made. And then about halfway through the season, I think we maybe had 160 taps that we ended the season with. That year we made about 23 gallons of syrup, which again, it was we were more so in the mindset of just family and friends, something to do with the kids. And then 2024, we increased our taps to about 2,200.
Oh, that's a big jump all of a sudden.
Yes. Yeah. It's a very big jump in the number of taps as well as the operation itself, to go from, just a handmade equipment hobby operation to a full-fledged maple operation.
Let's take a step back, and both of you can answer this. Was maple syrup producing in any of your family's backgrounds?
It was not in mine. As a young kid, I used to go. There was a gentleman. I actually grew up in Sandy Creek. There was a gentleman that we used to go and watch him do it. We would, drink the hot maple syrup, and to this day we still go visit, him. He actually helped us get started, but it was not in my family, no.
What? Go ahead, Joanna.
It wasn't. So it was partially in my family. The house that we live in now was a distant relative of mine. So back in, I don't know when it was. When
The late 1800s.
The late 1800s. And we actually have some of the taps from that time period when they tapped the trees back then. So it's not a very recent family history, but has been part of it, although I didn't take part in it.
Mm-hmm. So now what are you up to? You said you started with 67 taps? What are you up to now? And I mean, and you said 23 gallons to start. Where are you now in terms of production?
We tap just over 4,000 maple trees now. So coming from our homemade evaporator in the driveway, we built a sugar house. We purchased a 3x10 wood-fired evaporator, an RO, a reverse osmosis system that takes about 1,800 gallons of water out of the sap an hour. So quite a difference from 67 taps.
Yeah, I would say so. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I mean, what's your distribution like? Obviously, it's not just friends and family anymore.
No, so we last year produced about 1,800 gallons. We're selling some bulk. We like to try to sell all that we can retail. But we've gone from having enough syrup for ourselves the year with the 23 gallons and giving it to our neighbors and friends and family to, um, now we're shipping syrup all over the country and all over the world. Now we've this past week we sent some to Kenya. Um, it through the website, it just kind of keeps growing and growing now.
So it's just through the website and word of mouth.
Yeah, and networking. We've met a lot of great people that have helped us, to share our products.
So let's talk a little bit about the process, and I guess Mark, you're going to kind of take us through, what goes on. I remember when I grew up, it was all about the buckets and putting out buckets. I remember a fifth grade project where the teachers had us go and tap trees in our neighborhood. It didn't work out well because I think we kind of mixed some maple trees with other trees, and it wasn't the best. But how has it gone from that to what you have now?
I mean, when we have different groups and schools come and FFAs come, as far as we still say, you don't need to be on 4,000 taps or 40,000 taps. You can still be a backyard operation and have a good time, with your friends and family and neighbors. But what we have done is we've kind of gone all in. We've went from a very small amount to a fairly large amount in 2 or 3 years, and we've gone to a high vacuum system. So instead of the buckets, all of our trees are tapped on our property, approximately 40 acres, that all runs into one tank. We are on high vacuum, so we actually try to run anywhere from 23 to 27 inches of vacuum if we can. And once we start the vacuum, we actually don't shut it off. So we're in the process now of tapping late afternoon and nights because the trees are froze up. And very soon we actually run a wet, as far as a wet dry line. We have a 2-inch dry line that actually carries the vacuum far, far back into the woods. And then the wet line is what actually picks up, the sap from the lateral lines that are, each individual tree is, tied into.
So, well, you mentioned the vacuum, and that kept coming up, and I kind of get a sense of probably what that is, but explain to the viewers what that does.
The vacuum system, it draws a vacuum on the lines and then on the trees. So you're constantly trying to fight bacteria. You don't want the sap to go back into the tree. So we actually leave the vacuum on unless it's going to be extremely cold. And once the trees freeze up, you can shut it off. But with a maple tree, when they go to freeze back up at night, they'll actually try to draw the sap back into the spout, and you don't want that to happen. The hole that we drill is a 5/16 hole into each tree. Most trees at 14 inches in diameter up. We tap some of the very large trees that we can't get our arms around. We'll actually put 2 in. But you're trying to keep the sap as far as away from the tree is why we leave them on vacuum.
Yeah, so the layperson, it just kind of keeps the sap flowing, or at the very least, not going back toward the tree.
Right. And the nice thing about being on a vacuum system is the old school way of doing it with buckets. You need a freeze thaw every night to kind of reset the trees. When you're running high vacuum, it can run up to 3-4 days, even 5 days with one freeze thaw. So on our days where you don't get your freeze thaw every night on high vacuum, you are still getting liquid out of the tree for 3 to 4, even 5 days without that freeze up.
So does that extend your season then?
It gives you approximately, they say about 40% more sap, or more in quotes liquid It's a little bit lower of a sugar content than running buckets, but with the use of our reverse osmosis, you're able to, get rid of that liquid very, very quick, and just keep the, in quotes, like sugar water, as compared to a bunch of the, water that's in sap.
So in that sense, growing up, I think a lot of kids, if they've heard about the process, you got to boil 40 gallons of sap to get 1 gallon of syrup. It sounds like you have to boil down more with this process to get a gallon, correct?
Yeah, and that's one of the first questions that we ask people that come for a Maple Weekend, or when a school group comes. We always like to ask, how many gallons of sap does it take? And 99% of the time, it's the 40-to-1. That's it. 2% sugar coming out of the tree. We actually wish that we got that all the time, but there's days where it's 80-to-1. It might be 90-to-1. Depending on what Mother Nature gives us is what we get. I mean, there's no way to change that.
Yeah. What obviously for me as a meteorologist, I'm always curious as to what are the prime conditions that you need for this whole process to happen.
Well, ideally, like Mark said, you want the temperature to be below freezing during the overnight hours. For an extended period of time, 4 to 6 hours of freezing is ideal. And then throughout the day, you want that temperature to climb above freezing, which then creates the sap to run. So the freeze thaw cycles, as we refer to it, 20 degrees and 40 during the day is ideal.
So this wasn't on my list of questions, but why is it important? Why can't you just have the sap just continually running? Why does that pause have to go in there?
As the sap heads up the tree, from the roots, we are able to get the sap on the way up the tree, and then honestly, as it's coming back down the tree, we are able to as far as collect that as well. And I don't know all the science to it, but they do definitely need that freeze thaw to keep that cycle going. As the trees start to bud, and as it gets later in the spring, the sap will start to kind of cloud up and turn. It'll start to produce a bit of a smell, and you're getting towards the end.
Yeah. So is that, when you start to see buds or a certain point where they're starting to bud, is that pretty much the sign to you that the season is over?
It's a good indication that you're nearing the end of the season. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And what challenges did you have when you started up? Because I know up until the last couple of years, the weather has tended to be a little fluky in February and in March. I know we've had days where it's in the 60s, even 70s in February. How does that kind of weather impact things?
It actually really hurt last year for all the producers. Like sometime around mid to late March, maybe around the 20th or 25th or so, we had some days that were up into I don't know if it was almost 70 or 75 degrees. A lot of producers lost the flavor, and actually got so warm that we were still making syrup. It just had kind of an off flavor. It's nothing that you would want to bottle to sell. It was put into barrels and sold as bulk syrup. We were very fortunate that we're somewhere around 1,900 feet and change, that we caught a freeze when a lot of others didn't. And we kind of had another reset to where our flavor came back. The syrup actually lightened up, and as far as in color, and we made as far as a lot of syrup after the 25th of March that was still primo stuff.
Okay, we've been talking with Joanna Baker and Mark Russell of Swiss Mountain Farms. I got a couple more questions to ask both of you, if you can stick around, if that's okay with you guys.
Absolutely.
Yep. Okay, we're going to do a commercial break, and then we'll be right back. So stay with us. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Jim Teske. We're talking about maple syrup with Joanna Baker and Mark Russell of Swiss Mountain Farms in Erieville in Madison County. And we talked a little bit about the process. I don't know which one of you want to take this, but explain the different grades of syrup that's out there.
Sure. So all syrup is graded by color and flavor intensity. There are four different grades. I do have a couple sample bottles of three of them. So the first is a grade A golden delicate color. You can see it's very light.
Mm-hmm.
You can almost see through. Almost looks
Yeah.
like water. It doesn't look very dark at all. That is the lightest of the syrups. Typically, it's produced in the early season.
Mm-hmm.
So it's light in color and has a very mild, subtle flavor.
So would that be good for pancakes, waffles?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Any other thing that would be good for?
Candy, cream, confections.
Confections. The delicate syrup is best to make the maple candy, maple cream.
Uh-huh.
So you'll use that for all the confections.
Okay. So what's up next?
The next is the amber, which I believe you probably have a bottle of the amber in your studio.
Yes, I'll hold that up. I got the big bottle here. There it is. There it is.
So the amber color, amber color and rich taste. It's the classic, most versatile syrup. Has a nice, rich flavor, ideal for breakfast, salad dressings. You could also use it in cocktails as a sweetener.
Would that be the most common grade that you would probably see?
It is, yes. Yep. Very middle of the road. Good for everything.
Okay.
The third grade is the dark color and robust taste, which is here. As you can see, it's quite darker than the amber.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can see even that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the big difference.
Very big, yes. And there's also that has a lot more intense flavor. It's very good for cooking because it gives off a more robust maple flavor. And then the last is the grade A, very dark color and strong taste, of which I don't have a sample of, but as you can imagine, it is darker than the dark robust. And that's typically made towards the end of the season. That has the deepest color and the most robust flavor. Also ideally good for cooking, baking. We have recently partnered with a local brewery, and they are using some very dark syrup to make a coffee stout. So if you're looking for something, while cooking that will bring out the robust maple flavor, you would use that.
Yeah. So as we get ready to wrap up, I do want to let you guys mention what you've got coming up in March, and it's really across the state. Talk about what goes on in the big picture, but what you're specifically doing a couple of weekends in March coming up here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, so the last 2 weekends in March is New York State Maple open house, essentially, Maple Weekend. So I shouldn't say all, but there are a lot of maple producers throughout the state that open up their sugar house to the public to get that, hands-on. Typically we are boiling during that point. So if you wanted to come see the process from start to finish, that's a good time to see that. So we'll have samples of syrup, of cream. We also have a local ice cream shop that makes us a vanilla bean ice cream with maple chunks in it as well. So
we will have.
I'm sold on that already. just hearing that.
We'll actually be doing a maple on snow for the kids. We'll be pouring, syrup on the snow for the people who come out. We also will be making fresh hot donuts, and there'll be all sorts of activities going on for the kids here as well.
Something for everyone. something for
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
And you get a chance to see the process. What's it like working in the sugar house when you're boiling? Just being around that. What's that like?
There's a lot going on. There's a lot of moving parts so we have to haul all of the sap to the sugar house. So from hauling the sap, offloading the sap at the sugar house, then to pump the sap through the RO, and then into the evaporator, and then drawing off the syrup, storing the byproduct of the sap, which is called the permeate water in tanks, which we use to then rinse the RO. We're also constantly watching tank levels, pan levels, operating the filter press, packing barrels of hot syrup. And because our evaporator is wood fired, we also have to maintain the boil, which is critical. So that requires us to load the evaporator every 5 minutes with firewood.
So it's very, very hands-on to do that, right?
Yeah. Yep.
To keep that up there. Now, how big is the evaporator? I mean, how much are you boiling down at a time? How many gallons goes into that?
Since again we're running it through our RO, we actually take it from, let's just say, the old standard 2% out of the tree. We actually run it through the RO in one pass, and we boil around 18 to 20% sugar. So we're taking between 16 and 1800 gallons of water an hour out of the sap. And then our evaporator will do about roughly 85 to 100 gallons an hour of the boiling, of getting more water out. So when Mother Nature wants to deal us, a 0.5 or a 0.6 on the sugar content, the RO will in turn just turn that around to 18 to 20%, and within a very short time, we're pumping syrup out of the evaporator.
Well, my last question for both of you is, what's your favorite food to put syrup on?
Oh.
I stumped you. I stumped you.
We've actually started making kettle corn. That's one of my favorite to put
Okay.
maple on.
I would say to put syrup on is probably ice cream.
Okay. I'm a standard pancake guy. I mean,
Yeah.
but I grew up with, not the real stuff. And then one of the things that I started out working in Vermont, and I would go on school visits, and one of my school visits, instead of giving me like a T-shirt from the school or whatever, they gave me a half gallon of maple syrup, Vermont maple syrup, and I was like, that was the best gift I ever got from any school visit that I ever made. And from then it was like, okay, I got to have the real stuff every time from that point on. This has been a great discussion. I'm glad you guys were able to take part in this. Did you mention the actual weekends? I want to make sure we get the weekends in March that you're doing this.
They are the last 2 weekends in March. So it would be the 21st and 22nd and the 28th and 29th.
Okay, so circle those 2 weekends on your calendar for all the viewers out there. Well, we'll get one extra plug in here. How do we get to Swiss Mountain Farms?
We are located in Erieville, New York. So if you are, wanting to come do some snowshoeing or cross-country skiing at Stony Pond, which is a state forest, which is right down the road, we are right there.
Okay, and you're open beyond the weekends as well. In March, do you have other hours besides the weekends?
Evening hours, and also one new thing that we're trying to hopefully do this year is we are in hopes to schedule our boils. We built we purchased a bulk tank, and Mark was able to, with his refrigeration background, figure out the condensing unit. So we're able to chill the sap, and hopefully schedule some boils. So those will be on our Facebook page as well.
Okay. That's great. We've been talking to Joanna Baker and Mark Russell from Swiss Mountain Farms. And again, thanks for everything, and we'll keep our fingers crossed that the weather is perfect this season.
Yes.
Thank you.
Download the WSYR Plus app on your TV to stream News Channel 9 for free. Just go to your smart TV, search WSYR Plus in the App Store, and download to start streaming today.